Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're getting some people to join now. We'll give everyone a little moment to get oriented to the Zoom world. But welcome back. I'm Geneva. You are welcome to fill out this poll that we're going to pop in the chat while we wait for people to join. But just to give you some context, so this is the last community of practice session of this track on community engagement, and it's been an incredible experience for me, and I hope for some of you as well. We've learned a lot, and we want to sort of use this time to learn a little bit more, but especially learn from each other. So we're going to be doing a lot of more interactive and discussion-based engagement, starting with this poll. So the first question that we have for you all is whether you agree with the statement that I see community engagement playing an essential role in how we plan for our park system and programming. So I'll give you a second to respond to that. And then there's a follow-up question for you to elaborate on why or why you don't agree with that statement. We'll give you a second to respond there. Uh-oh. Sherry says she's unable to hear anything. Okay. Katrina, oops, sorry. Yep, there you go. There's the chat, the poll again.
And Geneva, I hear you okay, but if there are others who also can't hear, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so yeah, as I said earlier, today's agenda is really focused on looking back on a really impactful, meaningful year for this program. But to prioritize fostering a sense of connection across the country before we part ways for the rest of the summer and come back in the fall and join for the Community of Practice 3.0. And we'll be introducing what our focus is for that next program. But in the meantime, we're gonna focus on the past year. Christina, how are the results looking?
They're looking good. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here.
Okay. Wow. So everyone here agrees or strongly agrees that community engagement plays an essential role in how you plan for park systems and programming. That's really encouraging. And also, I'm not surprised. I mean, just based off of what we've heard in the past year, we know just how important this work is to you personally. But I'm also encouraged to hear that you all feel that it's really a citywide sentiment, that community engagement is really important to your whole park system. So that's great. Okay, wow, we have a lot of feedback here too. Let's see. Maybe can we try something a little off script? Is there a response that someone put in that they want to elaborate on or that they felt really strongly about or even lukewarm about? We're just interested to hear directly from you. Well, I'm seeing a lot of good feedback here that if your parks aren't driven by community, it won't serve the community, definitely. Sounds like there's an importance in the quality of community engagement, that there needs to be really meaningful participation, not just getting feedback. There's some endorsement from Mayor and yeah, this is great.
I'm sorry, this is Sherry Frable from the City of Scranton. Just, I guess a quick comment about any of this is, while we truly 100% believe that the community should be involved and should be a part of the process, also, I think it needs to be put out exactly why maybe we didn't take certain suggestions or whatever the situation is. We kind of ran into this with our regional park here in Naog, where, we're trying to put pools in. However, there were so many different directions that, between our administration and our council, and then from the public, there was just so many differences, and it kind of got stalemated. And so while it is very important, I think it also needs to be communicated maybe why we weren't able to implement certain aspects of what the community needs or wants.
That's a really great point. Thank you for sharing that. I think I've heard that from other perspectives too, that while we want to recognize that we've heard people's voices and are doing something with the feedback that they're giving, it's ultimately on us to make the decision, or in order to have some sort of action. Maybe if anyone has another comment, or we can move on, but would love to hear from anyone else that has something they want to elaborate on.
Yeah, Geneva, I would just add that I think all of us feel, there's a reason all of us are in the, community of practice, and we're, deeply committed to this type of work. I think we all also, because of that, realize there's always room to improve and, just get more people engaged, or find the people that haven't been engaged over the years and make sure those other voices are being heard as well. So I think that's, I think we're all in that stage of it's part of our mission and our process, but how do we do better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that's Dan, is it not?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And thank you everyone for sharing your responses. We're definitely going to spend some time sifting through those, but I'm going to turn back to the presentation. Just a few slides before we get to dig into some more conversation. But first off, just let's look back on this community of practice and all of the deep questions that we've worked through as a group. I've loved each and every one of these topics, from first getting into what is community engagement generally. That's how we started, building up towards how do we make initial contact and meaningfully build trust with communities. And from there, we started to get into how can we build community relationships, particularly across demographics and backgrounds that don't otherwise have a chance to get to know each other, if not in a park. And then from there, how can we support the build out of a community identity around a place? And we dug into specifically green gentrification and how community engagement can sort of mitigate those factors to green gentrification. And then in our last session, we finished with community power, envisioning where do we want to see the community once we've worked with them on their vision. Where do we want to see them go from there and take ownership of their power? And now we're here. We're at this last session to look back and then also look forward towards the future. And I wanted to sort of give a teaser that we heard so much from you all, and that we're really trying to take in what you shared and do something with it, and also give back what we've learned. So we're going to be sending you out a resource, titles coming soon, basically distilling what we heard. And the main contents are policy recommendations that were shared across the network, including community engagement standards, funding and staffing requirements, and park equity frameworks. And we have a long list of community engagement strategies that have worked to deliver specific outcomes. especially when it comes to fostering community relationships, identity, and power. So the next time that you're thinking, gosh, we're working in a community that really doesn't know each other very well, then we're hoping that you can reference this resource and see, here's some tactics that you can try to maybe get people to know each other more deeply. And then complementing all of these strategies, we have stories from the network that you all have shared over the year to back this up and get you to feel like you can apply these stories to your own local context. So those are the contents. And then just to give you more of a sneak peek, looking back on all of the sessions, we provided a platform for stories from across the country, such as when thinking about community relationships, the Park Listeners Program in Chattanooga, and how that demonstrates some really strong best practices that you can see on the left, such as hiring community organizers and spending time in community events, not just hosting your own. And then we moved on to a story from India Basin in San Francisco about mitigating green gentrification through building community identity. And so there's stories from there and also from your own network, from across the network, as well as some best practices, such as activating the site with consistent programming and investing in community skills and assets and the local arts and culture. And then finally, the last story that we heard from was United Parks is One in Newark and also Civic Lex in Lexington about building community power. And some of those best practices included just transferring ownership and power over and letting communities make the final decision and supporting the establishment of stewardship groups and a few other best practices. So that's all in the report, and we're really excited to share it, and also very open to your feedback. If there's something that you really want to make sure is in there, like you really want to have links to the examples that were given about policies, or you want to have a template or something, it's definitely not too late to share that feedback. We are open to incorporating, sort of like building out a really robust resource for you. Speaking of resources, I have to give a shout out to myself and my team that all of this whole program of this track was based around the Common Ground framework, which again is this green paper, sort of a play on a white paper that gives practitioners, especially practitioners like you all in the parks field, evidence and strategies that your work and the way you're doing community engagement can build these really major outcomes like community relationships, identity, and power. So I think we can pop the link to the Common Ground framework in the chat. If you haven't accessed that already, that's available for you. And that leads me to just lastly, a big thank you to you all for this huge, really formative year for our program and community strategies, and also the 10-minute walk campaign or 10-minute walk program. And I really I cannot overstate how important the community of practice has been for my own personal professional growth this past year. Some big key highlights for me were, so this photo that you see was taken during the kickoff of the On Common Ground program, which we could not have done without the community of practice, this community of practice track. And the program is a pilot, basically funds pilot sites to test out community engagement strategies that might build towards social contact, which we heard about in an earlier session. We also published the Common Ground green paper, which was tailored very specifically to this audience and based on feedback and getting to know the sort of information that you're looking for in your work. And then another huge win or success for our program was that the 10-minute walk policy priorities really reflect the priorities of this group. So if you look in a resource that Christina will share again, then you'll see that community engagement is really one of the top priorities in parks policies for our organization, because we think that's reflective of your priorities. And we're really excited to keep building resources and creating new grant opportunities and bringing you guys together into the future. So thank you so much. This has been huge for me, and hopefully been a fun experience and meaningful for you all. So that's all I had for slides. We're going to break out into small groups and dig into a few key questions. So the first one is about reflecting on the last year. Where do you feel you started with community engagement, and how have things changed? And so you could take this from a perspective of, like, personally, you've cultivated a deeper sense of community or connection to your community, or it could be about how you've seen the community change. Maybe I remember when we first had these meetings, we were all sort of dealing with COVID and like reconciling all of the time we've lost. How has that changed? So really curious to hear how this last year has transformed for you. And then looking ahead, we have some questions around what you would like to have a strong answer to when it comes to community engagement. And then lastly, we're going to have an I need exercise to get a sense of what are the assets of this network? What are some of the resources and tools that you have, some of the policy examples that you have that we maybe don't know about yet, and that we can share to each other. And then we're also going to hear about what you might need in terms of resources and tools. And then we're going to come back for a quick sort of teaser of Community Practice 3.0, and then we'll break. So that's all I got. Thank you.